I'd like to call to order the Utility Service Board for the City of Lawrence on this, the 23rd day of April, 2019. All members of the board are present, so we do have a quorum. The minutes were sent to you by email for your review. I would entertain a motion that we approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.
What's that?
Minutes are approved. Payment of claims. Claims were sent to you for review by email. I would entertain a motion that we approve the claims.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor of payment of the claims, please signify by raising your right hand. They are approved. Report of the Utility Superintendent.
Good evening. So I'm going to breeze through this pretty quickly so we can get to our public hearing. I do want to mention, so our 2018 Consumer Confidence Report is available. It's online now. It'll be going out in the mail here in probably the next week or two. Then we have our substantial completion walkthrough on the Rich Art Water Plant this Thursday. So that's like the penultimate final sign off on that plant. So we'll get that done this week, and we have also a 30% plan review meeting for the Phase 2 projects, which are the Fort Harrison, Indian Lake water plants, 52nd Tower, Winding Ridge Tank, 47th Street water main project, and some other water main projects in there. And then also they've completed the potholing finally on the Purple Line project. So we'll our next phase now is go into our engineer, sit down with the Purple Line engineer and outline the scope of the work needed to resolve any water or sewer conflicts with their new bus stops and drainage improvements. So other than that, it's just business as usual, and I guess the next is up is the public hearing, which we'll be hearing from Ms. Karen Saavedra with American Structure Point, who's doing the PER, and then Ms. Amy Miller with Cornerstone Grant Management, who's our grant administrator.
Okay, Scott, I have one question. The Purple Line, will that entail the street redo similar to what's happening over on College?
Yes, and where it impacts Lawrence is on Post Road from our southern border, which is 42nd Street north to Otis, then east on Otis to Wheeler, and then up Wheeler to Ivy Tech.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything further? If not, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn or suspend our regular meeting so that we can enter into our public hearing.
I would so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed, we are adjourned.
Excuse me.
For the purpose of the public hearing.
Alrighty.
And I would just make sure that it's noted in the record that the public hearing is now open. Thank you.
We are now open for the public.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for having me out this evening. My name is Amy Miller. I'm with Cornerstone Grants Management. I've been hired by Lawrence to help them submit an application to the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. This is for a grant to help do some sewer improvements near the Elmhurst Lift Station, which is near Shadeland and 46.
Shadeland and 43rd, roughly.
Yeah. We are asking for $700,000 from the state, and The city is going to be contributing approximately $500,000. These are all pre-design, pre-bid numbers, so these are all estimates at this time, for a total project of about $1.2 million. We have a proposal that's due on May 3rd, and a final application will be submitted on June 28th. By June 28th, there's several things that we have to have done within the application. There's an environmental review that has to be done, some more engineering done as far as cost estimates and such. So I don't think there's any kind of problem of us getting these things done before June 28th. I believe awards are sometime in August or September? August, yes, August this year. If we do not get the grant this first time, the city can come back into the program and apply for round 2, which awards January 2020 is when that award date would be. Before each application that we submit, we're required to do a public hearing, really just to notify your constituents that you're going after these federal funds. These are called Community Development Block Grant Funds. They're administered from Washington down to state of Indiana. State of Indiana then disperses these funds out to communities. It's a very, very competitive grant program. That's why I stress that if we do not get it the first time, that's not uncommon. We can come back into the program and reapply. At that time, a lot of time, communities are revamping their applications, getting more letters of support or rewriting their narratives to make it a little more competitive. But so it's not uncommon not to get funded the first time. I'm going to turn it over to Karen, and she can kind of explain what the scope of the work is for this project.
Can you watch the PowerPoint behind you?
I did put together a PowerPoint just to help show some images of what we're doing. This first slide just kind of sums up what Amy just mentioned, what the grant entails in terms of a cost share for Lawrence and what kind of funding we're going after. So the project area is, is kind of near, Shadeland and 43rd. And what you see up here are kind of historical recommendations and these different highlight colors of work that was done about 10 years ago when we did a sanitary sewer evaluation study, the SSES, where we looked at really comprehensively your whole sewer system in the entire city. And this was an area that was a higher priority area, and so we wanted to come back to this area with the Okra grant. So what we do to kind of determine what pipes we should work on are manholes. In this case, we used closed-circuit televising, and the city does own a truck that has this robotic camera on it and allows us to really see inside the sewers from above ground. And we use that information to then see how the sewers are holding up. All the sewers in this area are made of vitrified clay, and they're about 60 years old. So then I'm going to just go through some images of kind of things that we can see in the sewers. So this is showing like water leaking in where a pipe enters a manhole. And all of this water, if you haven't heard the term before, we call infiltration and inflow. So that can come from rainwater or groundwater, basically entering your sewer system, and then that's extra water that then the city needs to pay to treat. So anytime we can get this clear water out of the sewer, the better from a bottom line budget standpoint. So then there's different types of water that can come in. We call them like weepers. So you think of like someone crying or something, right? Like a little drip and stuff. But then you can get water that's just constantly flowing, like running in. So it almost seems like it's pressurized. But again, that's groundwater coming in. And then we can also see ones that are called gushers. So in this area, we did see a lot of infiltration, a lot of clear water coming in. We also see with this type of pipe material some offset joints, just as the ground shifts and over time the pipe kind of shifts around, and then that allows, again, the movement of soil and water. And then there's grease buildup just from people putting things down the drain or restaurants or other things, and so that can kind of cause blockages in the sewer. Sometimes new developments come in and they tap these pipes to put in new laterals, and they may not do it properly, and so they can cause kind of the pipe to crack and break around that penetration. The pipe, as it settles or over time, can get fractures and cracks. And then just, gravel deposits, silt, sand, anything that kind of comes in can just settle out and kind of take up the capacity in the sewer. There are a couple locations in this area where we saw kind of some higher priority defects. So we call these like pipe failure. You know, the sewer isn't necessarily collapsed, but it's getting to the point where you get a little concerned, especially in terms of like a sinkhole or something forming above ground that you would be able to see. But and so I'll talk through how we'll address some of those that we've seen. These are just kind of example pictures of like if a pipe were to completely fail and collapse. We did not see any of this in this project area, but this can happen, and that's why it's very important that we maintain our underground infrastructure. One other thing that you can see is a sag. Again, as the different pipe sections settle, you'll kind of see the water level higher in certain sections. And what that does, it just takes away from capacity of wastewater being in the pipe. So how do we address these issues that we're seeing in that Elmhurst Lift Station service area basin? We can do kind of dig up and repair work, and that's obviously more noticeable above ground, has kind of some more environmental impacts residents a lot more. We try not to do as much surface excavation, but if we need to, and there were 5 pipe segments where we'll need to dig up about a 10-foot long segment to replace that section of sewer. This is what you'll see from above ground. You'll see some piping, that black pipe on the left, high-density polyethylene pipe. That's our bypass piping, so it's kind of, we need the pipe, we can't have flow going through there while we're working. So we'll bypass flow around, and then you might see some trench boxes and some open excavation like this. Primarily what we'll be doing in this area will be called trenchless rehabilitation, where we do all the work from above ground. So we can insert a sort of pipe within a pipe, and we can inflate it and roll it out into the sewer using hot water or steam. We can cure it, it hardens, and it becomes its own structural pipe within the existing pipe cavity. So we're really kind of replacing them, but we don't have to do any dig up work. And we've done projects like this throughout the city of Lawrence over the past several years. We just did the one in the Lawrence Trade District area using this same methodology. So it's a proven technology, and it'll work really well, and it'll seal up all of those areas where that clear water is coming in.
Is it okay to ask questions at
Sure.
this point?
Yes.
What actually happens to the existing pipe that's inside of, I'm assuming it goes on the outside, or?
The new pipe goes on the inside of the existing
Okay.
pipe.
So it- and
So
then
the old
other
pipe's
one-
still on the outside, and so it can continue kind of deteriorating or crumbling or whatever it's going to do over time. But even if it completely just falls apart, this new pipe is strong enough to hold up the soil loads and the road loads or car loads, anything above it. It's basically its own standalone pipe.
And it starts off soft.
Starts out soft, almost like a felt. There's like a couple layers. You inject a resin in it, and then the resin's activated by the hot water or steam. So kind of pressurizes it, pushes it up against the existing walls of the pipe, and then it cures. So it just takes some time, and it just hardens, and it becomes really hard.
And then lastly, you said we have already done this process another place in Lawrence.
Yes.
When do we do it?
We did some in 2012, and then we did some in probably 2014, I think, 15, we did some more, and then we just, as you said, in 2017 and early 2018, finished up the Trades District area.
Using the same process. And we even did a section in the Trades District project that went under like the railroad. So it's strong enough to withhold the load of a train. So they can just make it thicker to hold a heavier load. So, and they're supposed to last anywhere, they're, I guess, proven to 50, but they say up to 100 years. So, anything else? So then, after we reviewed all of this video that we received and really identified what defects we were seeing and therefore the best way to fix those, we've identified in red here on this map the 43 sewer segments that we will be addressing in this project. So we'll be using that lining process. It's called a cured-in-place pipe. On all of these red segments, there's some little circles in red, and those will be the areas where we have to dig up a segment because it's got too big of a fracture or maybe a crack or something that the liner won't be able to get through. So we really need to replace that segment first, then we'll line through the whole pipe from manhole to manhole. We will also line laterals from the main line sewer up to the right-of-way line. And that's really helpful because it addresses that point where the lateral enters the main line sewer. A lot of times that connection can become loose and you get roots or water coming in there. So we'll be really sealing all of that up as well, all the way to the right-of-way. So these are, in blue, I like to point out, those are previously completed pipes that have been rehabilitated using this cured-in-place pipe method, and those were done back in 2012 as part of actually another Okra project that the city did 7 years ago. Any questions on, we're really going to be doing kind of the whole system. The lift station is right in kind of the middle of the, I don't know if my mouse will work, but it's kind of right north of the railroad tracks running through there. That's where the lift station is. So we're really sealing up all of the pipes that bring flow to that lift station, which will help in terms of opening up capacity for that lift station because it won't have to pump all this clear water. Any questions? Just kind of a final thing here, again, why it's really important that the City of Lawrence goes after this grant and fixes these sewers. We obviously want to eliminate sanitary sewer overflows. That's what SSO stands for. That's when, after a rainstorm, you see sewage coming up out of manholes onto our streets, and we don't want to see that. We don't want to have to encounter that from a public health and safety standpoint. And so that's why we want to seal up our sewers and not have them be filling up with rainwater, and then that's when they kind of overflow. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, by sealing up the sewers, making them really watertight, it reduces Lawrence's cost to treat the sewage, which is helpful for your bottom line. And then also, again, protecting our underground infrastructure from failing just is good for protects us from sinkholes. The roads are only as good as what's underneath them, how well that soil has been compacted, and if there's a pipe under there that is failing and soil is going into that pipe, that's where you get the problems. So it's really important, it's really imperative. This is a high priority section for the City of Lawrence. And at that point, we just have open up to any questions or any public comments about going after this grant.
I had one quick question.
Yes.
Has anyone come up with a number on the amount of money we will save once we implement this new system?
I'm working on putting that together through the work that we did, putting that sanitary sewer evaluation report together in 2009. We did flow metering in all of we call them sewer basins. And so we really tried to capture, so we looked at kind of what is the normal sewer flow going through, and then when it rains, what is the flow going through? So that's that extra water that you're treating that we're going to be looking to remove out. So I'm pulling those numbers from that data together, and that'll be part of our grant application to really highlight to Okra, how much water we'll be keeping out and therefore saving by not having to pump it or treat it or, send it to citizens. And so I'm working on getting that number together, and I should have that for the next public hearing. But I'll make sure that you have that information. And then we just like to point out, this problem of the clear water, we always want to recommend that everyone disconnect your sump pumps. Those you don't want that stormwater or groundwater coming into the sewer. So making sure that your sump pumps are not connected to the sewer. We always, would recommend that. And then obviously if you do see an SSO kind of this is a general comment for the public, please call the city immediately because it is a health, hazard, and they do need to take measures to address that. So, anything else?
Anything further from anyone? Is there anyone here who would like to make any public comments? Not, or if there's no further questions, then we will complete our public hearing. And thank you for coming and for your presentation.
A motion to close the public hearing and
Okay,
reopen.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. The public hearing is now closed. We will now move forward with reopening our regular meeting. Entertain a motion that we reopen our.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to open up our hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Okay, we are back to our regular agenda for our regular meeting. And next item of business was unfinished business. I don't believe we have any unfinished business. New business, item number 1, approval of SRF disbursement form 69 from Graves Plumbing Company, Inc. for $21,721. Would entertain a motion that we approve that.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or question regarding that item? If not, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Those same sign. That is approved. Next item of business is the account adjustment. We have one for 7768 Sparrows Point Court requesting a sanitary sewer adjustment, $327.54 due to a busted water line.
Correct, and the water did not enter the sewer system.
Okay, entertain a motion that we approve that.
I make a motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Those same sign, that is approved.
Thank you.
Next order of business, remonstration of ratepayer dispute regarding disconnect notice. I do not believe we have any. And open for citizens' comments. I see none. I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Move adjourned.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Those in sign. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.